Welcome to Days at Dogwood Canyon, a nature podcast brought to you by Dogwood Canyon Audubon Center in Cedar Hill, Texas. This is a podcast that will take you into our 200-acre wildlife preserve in the heart of the DFW Metroplex. Take a quick weekly break with us and get outside with the fresh air, the trees, and of course, the birds. My name is Kiersten, and I'm Center Coordinator Community Programs here at Dogwood Canyon Audubon Center. Welcome, listeners, to our Days at Dogwood Canyon podcast. This is a podcast about nature, birds, plants, and us. And we will talk about how we all rely on each other to live our best lives. A few episodes ago, I introduced a new partner to Audubon called Conserva Aves. Today, I want to talk a bit more in detail about what this organization is doing south of the border. Major bird conservation groups, including Audubon, BirdLife International, the American Bird Conservancy, and Birds Canada, have teamed up with the Latin American and Caribbean Network of Environmental Funds, the region's largest environmental financing consortium. They're addressing substantial conservation gaps in the Latin American region by supporting local organizations and indigenous groups in creating protected sites that benefit migratory and resident birds. Welcome to Conserva Aves. In the spring 2026 edition of Audubon magazine, we have highlighted 4 projects that this group of organizations is supporting in Mexico and South America. And boy, is this exciting stuff! Let's begin with Colombia. For the past 20 years, Afro-descendant communities in northwestern Colombia have managed their collective lands by putting conservation at the forefront. In 2025, Conserva Aves helped them undertake one last critical step toward protecting their ecologically rich landscape and supporting their local community. This last step was linking the lands together. The Community Council of Black Communities of the Tolo River Basin and Southern Coastal Zone has managed 100,000 acres of jointly owned land since 2002. This organization has always been about conservation, and after a failed foray into logging a small tract, they went all in on maintaining their considerable natural resources. By 2010, they had established the world's first community-owned territory to issue carbon market certificates. Companies offset their emissions by paying this organization to conserve the corridor, and the community used those funds for new conservation efforts. Next, they formed a protected stretch of forests, mountains, and marshes critical for birds. And in 2013, they partnered with the National Park Service and neighboring communities to create a nesting sanctuary for vulnerable sea turtles. I love where this is going. Despite all this great conservation effort, there was a missing piece: connection. These 3 protected lands had gaps between them that prevented this habitat from being a contiguous piece. Conserva Aves helped them bridge the gap. The initiative covered the legal expenses involved in safeguarding 10,500 acres that connect the existing protected areas, ensuring that wildlife can continue to roam across all ecosystems. Today, 8 forest guardians regularly walk or ride horses through the area, employing GPS units, optics, and cameras to note habitat changes and record the species they encounter. The funds also helped expand monitoring efforts to track key bird species, such as the critically endangered great green macaw. Go Conserva Aves! The great green macaw is native to the Caribbean lowlands of eastern Honduras to northwestern Colombia, as well as the Esmeraldas in West Ecuador. Smaller numbers occur in other areas. Once common throughout the entire Caribbean, the great green macaw populations have declined alarmingly in recent years due to poaching, persecution, and deforestation. The global population is estimated to have decreased 80 to 99% over 3 generations. Protecting their habitat in Colombia is a crucial step to their survival, and with the help of Conserva Aves, they have a new start. Okay, let's head to Mexico and learn how we're helping grow commitment. The Isthmus of Tehuantepec is the narrowest land connection between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in Mexico, and it is an exceptional place. Its landscapes range from swampy tropical jungles on the northern Gulf Coast to temperate mountains and dry tropical savanna on the Pacific slopes. 11 kinds of birds occupy this habitat and are often the subject of SOS Social Solutions, a nonprofit that promotes environmental education and behavioral change at the local level. Scientists have conducted only a few studies of this ecological treasure, and many locals are unaware of the biodiversity in their backyard. SOS aims to change that. This group is working with local residents to establish conservation areas on nearly 25,000 acres. The area spans the wide variety of habitats and are home to a diverse range of communities, including Afro-Mexican farmers and indigenous Zapoteco and Zoque peoples. Each community guided the selection of protected areas according to their cultural and biological values. In other areas, the presence of birds will help draw the lines. With funding from Conserva Aves, 9 people are training to survey and monitor local birds and their habitats. Now, these are brand new birders that are learning to use binoculars for the first time and mapping routes using GPS systems. They will traverse the areas at least once a week through the end of 2026 to look for target species. They're focusing on 5 vulnerable species: the yellow-headed Amazon, green parakeets, cinnamon-tailed sparrows, rose-bellied buntings, and orange-breasted buntings. They are looking for all of these in the 3 proposed protected areas. The yellow-headed Amazon, an endangered lowland forest-dwelling parrot, has experienced severe habitat loss on the isthmus. The pet trade has contributed to population declines across the bird's range in Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras. With the information gathered by the new birders, these lands can hopefully be protected by the country. Now, heading further south to Bolivia, let's see how Conserva Aves is accelerating autonomy. Under the Multi-Ethnic Indigenous Territory, aka TIM, which includes 28 communities, Indigenous communities have unprecedented autonomy and access to funding to protect their lands from outside threats such as illegal logging, hunting, mining, and land occupation in the Bolivian Amazon rainforest. In 2023, an extreme drought led to unprecedented wildfires in the southwest Amazonian rainforest. Until then, traditional methods of wildfire prevention proved effective. After the terrible fires in 2023, TIM knew they needed new allies and strategies. One of TIM's priorities was to safeguard Loma Santa's biodiverse region of wetlands, floodplains, and forests. In 2024, under a federal law promoted by the TIM government, Loma Santa became the first indigenous protected area in the Bolivian Amazon. Yay, way to go! The next step for communities was determining how to manage those 500,000 acres. Conserva Aves provided funding and support to make their goals a reality. To ensure that the conservation area is well managed, 60 indigenous people with deep local knowledge of the landscape trained as forest rangers. Oh my gosh, I love this. They monitor the health of rivers, forests, and wildlife throughout the TIM. To help safeguard the newly established conservation area against wildfire, 16 of the rangers have received firefighting equipment and training through Conserva Aves. They combine traditional methods, new tools, and modern technologies like weather stations, which have helped them more effectively prevent large wildfires. I love it, combining the old with the new. Always a win. Protecting these lands not only helps the local human natives, but supports and protects one of the largest birds of prey in the world, the harpy eagle. This bird remains in tiny populations in intact humid forests in Amazonian and Andean foothills like Loma Santa. where the birds perch and hunt within the canopy, rarely flying above it. This is a big bird. If you've never seen a harpy eagle, stop listening right now and Google it, or Google it while you're listening. Now, our final stop on this journey is in Peru, where we will find out how Conserva Aves is making inroads. Residents of Calabeza, a tiny indigenous village in Peru's Satipo cloud forest, haven't historically seen a lot of tourists. In recent decades, hardcore birders have shown up looking for elusive species. The community was interested in drawing more avian tourists who would contribute to the economy. When the local soccer team won the 2012 Regional Soccer Championship, they used their winnings to build lodging for birders. But they didn't know how to move forward with recruiting the visitors. In 2024, Yunkawasi, a Peruvian conservation organization and Conserva Aves partner, and government representatives arrived to provide a potential solution: create a protected area that would draw ecotourism. They were not met with open doors. They were met with distrust. This community did not have a good relationship with the government or outsiders. The few conservation initiatives undertaken by outsiders previously had conflicted with ranching and agriculture in some places, which threatened residents' livelihoods. They were not interested in external conservation help. When biologists celebrated with them at the town's anniversary party, the locals gained a different perspective of this outside help. Slowly, they gained the trust of people in Calabeza and 9 other indigenous communities in and around the proposed 130,000-acre protected area. Yunkawasi and the regional government are working with communities to determine permitted activities within the protected area. The conservationists are supporting Yashaninka farmers who are converting open coffee plots into shade-grown ones that harbor a bevy of birds. Yay, shade-grown coffee! They're collaborating with farmers to maintain local potato varieties using a combination of ancient and modern techniques. They've also teamed up with a dairy cooperative to improve products and diversify with a new line of yogurt and ice cream made with local fruit. In Calabeza, residents are realizing the long-held aviatourism dream. In 2025, for the first time ever, Calabeza took part in the Global Big Day. This is when people worldwide tally all the birds they see. On May 10th, 2025, 35 visitors walked the 3 new trails in Calabeza, spotting 80-plus species, including the Peruvian wren and the yellow-scarfed tanager. All of the efforts from the indigenous residents, the nonprofits, and the government also supports conservation efforts for the black and chestnut eagle. The endangered black and chestnut eagle, also known as Isidore's eagle, hunts small mammals and birds in the steep mountains of the new preserve. Habitat loss in the Andean cloud forest, combined with ongoing persecution by poultry farmers, has driven the population to as few as 1,400 individuals today. With the new efforts to increase aviatourism, hopefully this black and chestnut eagle, which is a rare bird and many birders would like to see it, has a bright future ahead of it. Now, Audubon is overjoyed to partner with Conserva Aves and support the conservation efforts in all areas of the Americas. Today, 97 Conserva Aves projects support 181 protected areas, helping to safeguard more than 7.5 million acres across Latin America. And we can't wait to see what the future brings.